Several months ago, I was scrolling through my banking phone app. You know, I do this once in a while to count my millions, right? I like to keep track of it just for fun. And I noticed something very unexpected, a deposit of something like $21.34. And it caught my attention. And I did some digging. I realized it was given to me from Divine Renovation, so this global movement that's helping parishes around the world, and it was birthed here at St. Benedict's Parish. And I was thinking to myself, is this like a random gift from Divine Renovation? Is this an accounting error? And then I did the math and I realized, this is my book royalties after a whole year of book sales from Preaching on Purpose. And I was thinking, that's what happens when you co-author a book. You got to divide it 4 ways, right? Divide the spoils. And by the way, if you struggle with insomnia, we're selling copies of Preaching on Purpose in the cafe for $25 each. So I can't even afford a copy of my own book, right? It occurred to me that it's actually more lucrative to be a Catholic priest than it is to be a published author. So, Father Dan, stick with it. It'll pay off in the end. But it begs the question, right? Was it worth the investment? Now, it didn't cost me anything in terms of money to write this, and just to set the record straight, Divine Renovation, they took on all the risk, and they actually gave us advances at the beginning of the project. But was it worth the investment in terms of time? Because it took a lot of time, a lot of effort for all of us involved in writing this book. And I guess, might not know for a while. Over the last 6 months or so, I've been traveling around. I've probably spoken at this point personally to a couple hundred priests in different parts of the world already, and we'll see. We'll see if their parishioners, if their parishes experience better preaching as a result, and then we will be able to say, yeah, it was worth it. But and just to name the rich irony here for you, you're like, Father Simon is traveling around the world helping other people to preach better. And I just want to go back to one of my favorite Pope Francis quotes of all time. He said this: "We know that both they and their ordained ministers suffer because of homilies. The laity from having to listen to them, and the clergy from having to preach them. So we all suffer together. We're in this together. And today might be another one of those homilies where you're suffering. And just to say up front, if you're new here, or if you've just been coming more recently, you might be shocked that we're talking about money. And we are. You might even say to yourself, you know what? This is why I haven't been to church for 50 years, because all they do is talk about money. And I promise you, it's not all that we talk about, but every once in a while we do, because what we do with money, how we spend it, how we save it, where we invest it, can either help or hinder our relationship with Jesus. And so I come back to this question: is it worth the investment? Because we get called upon all the time to be charitable, to be generous, right? I just think of a few examples. Ding dong, and coming right to your door are the girl guys, right? They're selling cookies, and if you're like me, you're thinking to yourself, if I'm gonna blow a wad of cash on hollow calories that I don't need, I'm probably gonna go for something even more decadent than Girl Guide cookies. But you're probably a nicer person than me, and the cute little girls tugging at your heartstrings, and you're like, sure, you buy a box of cookies from them, right? You're generous. Or a friend of a friend goes through some kind of personal tragedy, and they start a GoFundMe page, and they send you the link, and you might not know this person, or you might not know them well, but you decide, well, out of the goodness of your heart as a fellow human, you want to be charitable, to help them out, and so you do. Or you go to a funeral, and the deceased person, they loved pets, and so in lieu of flowers, in the obituary, they encourage people to donate to the SPCA. And I had to look that up. I think it's the Society of the prevention of cruelty to animals. Anyways, it's about caring for animals, and you're like, well, I don't usually do this, but what the heck? Why not? It'll be a nice way to honor the deceased. And all of these, just to be clear, all of these are worthy causes, beautiful things to give towards, to support. And we might feel that tug on our heartstrings to give away a few bucks to help some people or organization in need. But I come back to the question, is it worth the investment? And I think for most of us, for those simple examples, it's like we're actually disconnected from the outcome, from whatever long-term investment, from whatever happens with the money that we give away. But as we're talking about financial generosity, which is motivated by our spiritual lives, I want you to be asking this question: is it worth the investment? Because what we're talking about here is something totally different from giving away a few bucks to charity. What we're talking about is making an investment. And to try to answer that question, over the last couple of weeks, we've been trying to very concretely show you what has happened to your investment thus far. And so we produced this beautiful magazine. I hope you read it, The Stewardship of Treasure. It has the numbers that show how we've used your giving over the last year in our budget for this coming year. Stories of all kinds of people who have been blessed. And I personally feel like I have a pretty good handle on what goes on around here. But I was reading that thing, and I was blown away. It's so edifying, the stories, to hear about people like Cindy and Sharon who just love to serve in kids' ministry. Maybe they're even downstairs right now helping out. Sharon and her family, they just showed up here a couple months ago, and they're already jumped right in. Or I think of people like Charlene, who was away from church for 10 years, and now she's involved in helping to give away that 10% to people in need. Or Pietra, one of our teenagers, like so many who come on Thursday nights and just love the Rise. And in fact, on Tuesday night, Pietra will receive the sacrament of confirmation from the Archbishop. Or Ken, who is in university, going through a bit of a tough time, and his brother invites him to Alpha. He comes here this winter, and he's so powerful. These are his words, actually. Alpha has changed the trajectory of my life. Being surrounded by like-minded people going through the same struggles helps us motivate each other. Our experiences demonstrate the supernatural power that God has. And I think of the video we played last week of Ben Neves. Here's this guy. He says, 6 years ago, Jesus Christ was a swear word. And now he's baptized. He's totally involved in our parish. Was it worth the investment? I'll let you answer that question for yourself. But in the gospel today, in John 15, we hear Jesus talking about and inviting us to make the greatest investment of all. He uses this image of this vineyard. His father is the vine grower. He himself is the vine. Each of us are branches on this vine. And he says this: abide in me as I abide in you. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in them bears much fruit, because apart from me, you can do nothing. And so there's this situation where God the Father, he wants to bear fruits, and there's this call to abide. What does that word mean? To dwell, to rest in, to linger, to get connected to closely. I would say even to invest everything, to go all in. Jesus is saying, look, abide in me, invest in me. Everything, your time, your talent, your treasure, your whole life, abide and invest in me. Get connected to me, stay connected to me. This is where it's going to happen. I am the very source of life. I am what gives life its deepest meaning. And so abide in me. And what happens when a branch is connected to the vine and it's healthy, it bears fruit. That's the ROI. That's the return on investment. It bears fruit. And when we're talking about fruit here, just to be explicit, what we're talking about is a person whose life has been transformed, meaning they got connected with Jesus. Now, you might be saying to yourself, okay, so I hear these stories about Alpha, but I haven't taken Alpha, or I took Alpha 10 years ago, but I kind of feel disconnected from that. Or kids ministry and youth ministry. Well, I don't have kids. Neither do I, by the way. But it's like, or my kids are grown up and they've moved out and whatever, and I don't really feel connected to that either. And what I want to say to you is, here's the secret that Jesus is presenting to us today. If you are connected to him, and he is connected to him, and she is connected to him, and I am connected to Jesus, then all of us are like branches on the same vine. We are all connected to the same fruit. My fruit is your fruit is my fruit. We all share that. We all get to celebrate together the fruit that God is producing through us. And if I can boil it down, I'd say it this way. If you're connected to Jesus, your investments will bear fruit. I guarantee that. Now today, what we're going to do is we're going to take some time to invite you into prayer, to take a few minutes to talk to Jesus, to ask him, Jesus, how do you want me to invest? And this is something that I did actually earlier in the year, back in January. What happened at the start of this year is the priests, we got a salary bump, which is pretty great because my book sales haven't been doing well. So it's something that's decided by the diocese. And so for a few years now, I've been tithing 10% of my salary back to the parish. And so I had to do the math and realize I have to increase what I'm giving to continue to tithe. And I did so, and I did so freely and joyfully. Why? Because I see this parish as a worthy investment. I'm kind of like, have you heard of venture capitalists? Yes, no, maybe not. I kind of see myself as a spiritual venture capitalist. I mean, think of like Dragon's Den or Shark's Tank or that kind of thing. People who have money, they're on the lookout for opportunities that have high growth potential, that are saying, I see something there, and if I invest there, it's going to grow, and I get to share in the profit. Well, I want you to see yourself maybe as like a spiritual venture capitalist, to say, yeah, I see something happening here at St. Benedict Parish. There is fruit already, and I expect that God wants to produce way more fruit here, and so I will invest, and then I get to share in the profits. Meaning that if you're connected to the vine, if you're connected to Jesus, you get to share in the joy of seeing somebody's life transformed. And I go back to Ben's story and what he shared last week in the video, because some of the words he shared were so profound. Here's a guy, so again, whatever his past, he was baptized in 2020 here at St. Benedict. He's gotten involved in all kinds of different ministries, and he says this: when I give to this parish, I just feel connected. He says, when I see this Holy Week, 6 people get baptized as adults, I think that's beautiful and amazing, and my contribution had some small piece of that. I'm more connected to those 6 people because I feel like I'm more connected to this parish. Do you see it? It's as we invest, we get connected. And I ask the question, what could be more worthwhile than investing in changing somebody's life in a way that they get connected to Jesus, and that connection will last right into heaven. If you're connected to Jesus, your investments will bear fruit. And so what we're going to do, we're going to take a few minutes now, maybe up to 5 minutes, and to really sit with this question: Jesus, how are you calling me to invest. We'll have some background music, and during this time, you've got these cards in your pews. Maybe you received one on the way, and you can just pick it up right now, and there should be pencils or maybe or pens you brought with you, and you can just go ahead. If you want, you can actually, if it's easier for you, just pull out your phone. Just scan the QR code, and you can fill out this form online if you'd prefer to do that. And what we're inviting you to do is to take some time to pray, and maybe Jesus is asking you to start giving in a more regular way, if that's not something you're doing. If maybe you're just like a random charity, you're just giving a few bucks here or there, to start giving, or to switch to automatic giving, which just makes it easier for you and for us, or to increase your giving, as I had to do at the start of this year. And what we're not collecting credit card information today, and nothing like that. This is a commitment, a pledge that you're making with God. And we're inviting you to write it down, and then later on we can follow up. So let's have some music now, and go ahead and start to prayerfully fill out those forms.